Hello Paul.
Hello Ben, I have some statistics questions for you.
Great, I love statistics.
I am ready to do some statistical analyses, but I have an outlier in my dataset. Should I be concerned?
Outliers increase the variability within a sample. This results in an increased probability of making a type 2 error, an issue that is exacerbated for small sample sizes.
So I should just remove the outlier?
The approach for dealing with an outlier that is the result of inherent variability is of debate. Frequently authors argue against the removal of outliers in such circumstances. The observation could represent an important result and it may be wishful thinking to remove it.
So I should not remove the outlier?
The decision to remove outliers that are a result of measurement error or execution error may not be unjustified.
So which is it?
How to determine whether outliers are present, and the process for handling outliers, is the subject of differing opinion. A major difficulty in empirical research can be detecting which type of outlier has occurred. You should consider the context in which observations are being measured. How have you identified that you have an outlier?
My textbook says that outliers can be identified by simple exploratory data analyses, so I did a box plot.
Okay, but different statistical software adopt different methods for producing box plots, which for the same dataset can result in inconsistency in the outliers detected. In addition, this suggests inherent variability, due to the nature of random sampling. Samples drawn from any distribution can be expected to have outliers identified.
I see. Let's dance.
What type of analyses are you preparing?
I am doing a regression.
In which case you should be considering other diagnostics to identify outliers and unusual observations. What have you done so far?
I have done a test for normality on the residuals, which gives no evidence to suggest the assumption of normality is violated. I have also done a plot of the predicted values against the residuals under the model, and this gives no evidence to suggest the independence assumption has been violated.
Very good.
Am I done then?
Not quite.
Okay.
One way of identifying an outlier for a dependent variable is to look at the residuals. In fact, we can standardize the residuals. To standardize a variable, we subtract the mean and divide by the standard deviation. Standardizing the residuals allows us to apply standard rules for potential outliers. One general rule is that standardized residuals greater than 2 represent outliers. This comes from approximate critical values at the 5% significance level for the normal distribution.
I understand. Unusual values in the y direction can be identified by looking at the standardized residuals. What about unusual observations in the x direction?
A value of the explanatory variable is said to have a high leverage if it is far away from the average value of the predictor values. The leverage can be calculated for every value of the explanatory variable, and high leverage values are worthy of further investigation.
So are all outliers problematic for my regression model?
A case that is an outlier is not necessarily an influential observation. Influential observations are of greater concern because they distort the regression equation.
How can I check for an influential observation?
There are a few ways. The idea of temporarily deleting a case, refitting the model and then looking at change in the model is perhaps the simplest way of assessing the influence or impact of a case on the whole regression. The change in the estimated coefficient of the intercept and gradient is known as delta beta. You can also obtain the standardized delta beta values.
What is the standardized delta beta?
Similar concept of standardizing so that a common rule of thumb can be applied across analyses. A large standardized delta beta represents an influential case.
Thank you. I love statistics.